Remember all those months ago when we were talking about Dragon Age the Veilguard and how because of that I said that Mass Effect 5 is gonna get absolutely fucked? Well, here it is. Predicted it correctly yet again. Admittedly, no one's surprised because everyone knows that BioWare is a woke s-hole, but it is what it is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has to be one of the most hilarious headlines that I have read in the last few days. We have an article here from That Park Place talking about how EA CEO has now officially tried to explain why Dragon Age the Veilguard was a failure. And when you hear the reason why, it's going to make you laugh. They are
I read this article on a different website, but I have read this article. And I have to say, yeah, the CEO is lying. I mean, it's EA. It has been voted the worst company ever multiple years in a row, and it's wearing that crown with everything it's got, honestly, because at this point, that's like the only critical claim EA has for it, and everything else is kind of shit. That they got really screwed over when they no longer could actually make FIFA, and then and they lost their license there, and that was a license to print money, by the way. Yeah, EA has not been looking good, and now they are trying to claim the most stupidest thing ever, and that thing is that Dragon Age: The Veilguard would have been success. Yes, you heard that right. The game that barely sold 1 million copies in a franchise that was expected to sell at 10 million copies would have been a success if only there were microtransactions inside of the game. That's right, boys. That's right. Now, admittedly, considering the people who bought Dragon Age Veilguard, I don't honestly think that's a lie, because those mouth breathers would have unironically probably bought everything anyway. And, it would not affect anyone else's enjoyment of Dragon Age Veilguard because no one else enjoyed it to begin with. So, yeah, technically the CEO is almost not even lying here when he's saying that, yeah, microtransactions would have helped Veilguard. Now, would have it saved Veilguard? Obviously not. He's lying. But that's what the CEO is supposed to do. They're supposed to lie, otherwise they get replaced, people get fired, and the stock goes down. So no CEO is ever gonna just typically come out and say, "Oh yeah, that game that we made, it was shit. Are you crazy? That was the shittiest game ever. Wow, did you actually buy it? Are you an idiot?" Yeah, no one's gonna do that. They're all gonna lie that it's great. The EA CEOs, what I read, said glorious sentences like, "The critics loved it." Yeah, indeed, IGN 9 out of 10 certified, baby. And the players loved it. Yeah, well, the players loved it but refused to buy it. Strange how that is. Well, maybe because I'm personally non-binary. It is what it is.
claiming that the game didn't sell well due to the lack of live service elements. I am not even kidding. They're trying to blame the lack of live service elements in this video game as for the reason why Dragon Age The Veilguard failed, and it sounds like Maximum Cope, from a company that gave all their money to Maximum Ideology of Corin Bush and decided to get screwed over it. That is their fault, and we're here to talk about it.
Beautiful, ain't it?
So let's get into this article, guys, from That Park Place. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So Electronic Arts CEO Andrew Wilson has finally addressed the disaster that is Dragon Age: The Veilguard, but his response was as out of touch as one might expect. Instead of acknowledging the real reasons why the game failed, shoddy gameplay, a narrative that betrayed the franchise's roots, and an overbearing focus on identity politics, Wilson has instead blamed a lack of live service.
What are you talking about? Overbearing emphasis on something woke, okay? What do you even mean by that? And the fact that I think it's completely normal that your main option that is unavoidable in the game is establish your transgender identity in the game. That's normal, said every mentally ill person ever.
Elements for the game's commercial flop. Now, with all this being said, before we get into the rest, I want you guys to understand something. I've said for a long time now, and I'll say it again for those of you who may not have heard in previous videos. I am extremely worried about Mass Effect, not just because of the woke shit, but I've been worried about Mass Effect because I feel like that is going to be the game that they're going to make.
Listen. Oh, Hypnotic knows. He took it from me. He's gonna say my line. Because if they added so much trans Vogue garbage in a game that's literally about the Middle Ages, set in the Middle Ages, and you could still get trans cops. Imagine how insane it's gonna be in the future where they have even slight justification for any of their brain rot. 10 out of 10.
That is going to make up for the fact that they could never have monetized Dragon Age to Veilguard in the way that they wanted. They wanted to turn Veilguard from inception into a live service game. That was their goal. That was their desire. They wanted to do that. They failed so miserably.
Yeah, also this though. It was honestly kind of strange that Veilguard did not have these monetization things, which is not typical. But whatever. I mean, I'm gonna just say this. How screwed is Mass Effect 5? It literally has no chances. Even if Mass Effect 5 has 0 microtransactions, it's a full game from the release day one. Even if it doesn't have bugs. Which there are gonna be plenty, obviously. It's a modern day game at the end of the day. And if it doesn't even have any shred of woke or DUI in it, I am fully 100% convinced the people making the story are gonna make such below average self-insert bullshit, predictable slop that you're not gonna want to play anyway. Even if it's a full-blown not Vogue game, it is still gonna be boring slop. Poorly written and sad. That's the reality.
That they had to reboot the game 3 times, and on the 3rd time they decided to just make a single player RPG because they couldn't get anything else out in time. They are going to try to remedy that mistake by using Mass Effect as the new live service game, in my opinion. That's what I really think is going to happen, and it's unfortunate, but I think it is going to go down that route. Whatever.
It is so insane also nowadays that it is almost considered normal for a game to be made, then scrapped because of poor reception initial, made again, scrapped again, made again, scrapped again, and the final version of the game, when it's like 1 or 2 years until launch, is only ready then because it got scrapped 4 times. This happens with games, this happens with movies. When did we normalize this? And even if they are normalizing this, the outcome is still complete trash. It doesn't matter how many times you rewrite a shitty movie, it's still bad. It doesn't matter how many times you remake a stupid game, it's still stupid.
Mass Effect game comes out now in the future is going to be a live service game and a live service version of Mass Effect. And it's going to be fucking terrible. I'm telling you right now. If they do decide to do a live service version of Mass Effect, I really don't even know what to say at that point. So then it says, during EA's Q3 2025 earnings call, Wilson lamented the company's financial struggles, pointing to the underperformance of both EA Sports FC and the Veilguard. He admitted that the Veilguard engaged around one.
EA Sports is failing because, again, there's no more FIFA.
1.5 million players, a number that fell short by nearly 50% of EA's expectations. However, Wilson never actually said that it sold 1.5 million copies, just that the game engaged that many players, a critical distinction that suggests EA is playing with its numbers and leaning on subscription services to soften.
Yep. They were struggling to hit the 1 million mark, and the game went on sale, what was it, like 2 weeks into being sold or something? It was insane.
The blow. I'm glad that that Park Place picked that up because that's exactly what's happening, right? And this is the issue. A lot of people will read things at face value and they won't actually look into it any further. And this is why I yell at people when I say 1.5 million players engaged is not sales, right? 1.5 million players engaged means that within that time period, it was every single platform,
Roughly, currently, the estimate is at the bare minimum, 30% of that 1.5 million number is from EA Play, aka a Game Pass free subscription type of thing. And the EA Play thing was discounted to literally try it for free and play Dragon Age Veilguard for free. So this is quite insane. Quite the insane thing. Because again, I was surprised when I heard the news that it breached the 1 million sales number, supposedly. Because it was struggling and then it suddenly breaches it and then it breaches 1.5 million. Sus. Sus. And now they are calling it 1.5 million people engagement, not sales. Again, so my initial estimation that maybe not even 1 million copies were sold could be correct.
Every single console and every single available subscription service that the game was on, which is basically EA Play Pro. The majority of that, probably a little over half of that, is going to be EA Play Pro, and the rest was Steam and consoles and whatnot. So this is why they did not announce over 1 million sales. A lot of people are like, well, if they did 1.5 million players engaged, why didn't it announce 1 million sales? Because they never hit 1 million sales. That's the whole point. But instead of confronting the real reasons for the Veilguard's failure, Wilson is shifting the blame to a supposed lack of shared world features and deeper engagement mechanics. Corporate speak for this game should have been a live service cash grab instead.
Deeper engagement mechanics. Jesus. You know what he's effectively saying? Stupid repeatable daily quests. An Infinity Diablo 4 style dungeon grind.
Instead of a single-player RPG. But live service elements don't automatically make a success. In the last year alone, 2 high-profile live service games that leaned as heavily into identity politics as Veilguard failed in a spectacular fashion. I wouldn't say they leaned as heavily into it as Veilguard.
One of them is Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Oh, God. High-profile live service games. Suicide Squad was high-profile too, but Concord was not high-profile at all. Concord was just shit that turned out to be 400 million big. If you want to name something that was like this actually fits the description, it would be Skull and Bones.
Veilguard was absolutely ridiculous. Concord definitely did. Suicide Squad had some woke moments for sure, but it was just really bad fucking gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, the Suicide Squad had a lot of woke moments, and the story was shit, but the gameplay was really bad. The movement system was really bad. The shooting system was really bad. Every other system was non-existent. The itemization was really sad. The missions were really sad. Like, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League unironically did nothing right as a game. I'm not even overblowing it. It legitimately didn't do anything right. Like, there is, like, even the Flash boss fight, which is arguably the best, is complete garbage.
Bad service and bad writing. There was so much that was affecting Suicide Squad. It was insane. But yes, obviously the whole Harley Quinn thing, people are calling woke and whatnot. I get it. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't say it's the same or leaned as heavily as Veilguard. I think that is not a good comparison. Both Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Concord crashed and burned despite leaning into those supposed shared world features Wilson believes would have salvaged Veilguard. So then it says it's no mystery why Dragon Age Veilguard flopped. It wasn't because it lacked live service mechanics, but because, as many have pointed out, it was a fundamentally broken game that alienated the franchise's core audience. Fans were furious over its low-quality gameplay, generic art direction, and writing that felt more like an ideological lecture than a compelling fantasy narrative. Well, I mean, listen, when most people booted up Veilguard, I think it's pretty safe to say that it immediately did not feel like Dragon Age from the beginning, right? From the opening scene all the way to the ending scene, you literally didn't feel like you...
Yeah. It was bad. It was just... In general, it was just not really that appealing, okay? It didn't feel like anything. And the irony is that Dragon Age Veilguard is not really a bad game in game quality. It's just kind of shitty, okay? It's just kind of lackluster, a lot of sponge effects when it comes to enemies. Three different types of enemies, effectively, which technically is making New World blush, and that's impressively sad, and a lot of other things like that.
you were playing a Dragon Age game. And then the companions that you actually were able to conversate with were all just unbelievably weak people. They were driven by some sort of trauma, half of which had to do with identity politics. It was the weirdest freaking thing, and people were just over it. They were like, why am I even bothering with this? This is absolutely ridiculous. This feels like a trauma dump from the writers. This feels like some sort of therapy session for people who are just completely weak in life and want to take everything offensive. It seemed like a trauma dump. That's what it seemed like. So then under the leadership of Corin Bush and John Epler, the Veilguard abandoned what made Dragon Age special in the first place: the deep player-driven storytelling, which of course, and morally complex characters.
Now they will argue that the characters they made are deep and driven storytelling and morally complex. But, I mean, damn.
That define previous entries were replaced with shallow, preachy writing and a focus on a gender ideology over actual world building. The backlash was immediate, with thousands of returns flooding retailers and GameStop slashing its price from $69.99 to $24.99 in less than 4 months. GameStop, unfortunately, is going to be stuck with a lot of physical copies. They might have to go burn it somewhere at this point, but
I wonder if GameStop had to pay for their copies. I wonder if there was not some kind of deal struck here, that they get, like, you know, half of that shit for free or something. Because, I mean, GameStop is a fading thing, but GameStop is not that stupid to buy thousands upon thousands of copies of this shit before the pre-orders are even in, or after seeing the pre-orders. There must have been some kind of deal struck here behind the scenes that we do not know about, because they don't have to, by the way, disclose any of that. That's just a normal thing. Okay, it's not a sponsorship or anything. It's just a basic deal. Anyway, that was Hypnotic 10 out of 10. Bye.